All right, let's get right into it. We're always being told to make these super strong, complicated passwords, right? But what does that even mean? And what's really going on behind the scenes after you type it in and hit enter? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on how your passwords are actually protected. And, maybe more importantly, why the future might not have any passwords at all.
So let's start with this number, 32 million. Back in 2009, this is how many passwords were stolen, in plain text, from a website called rockyou.com. Now, for the users, it was a total disaster, but for security researchers, it was an absolute goldmine. It gave them this unprecedented, unfiltered look into our password habits.
So, what did this giant data leak actually teach us? Well, one massive lesson. We humans are incredibly, almost comically predictable. And guess what? That predictability is exactly the weakness that attackers just love to exploit.
And this chart really just lays it all out there, doesn't it? When you look at the data from that RockYou breach, you can see people weren't using these complex random strings. Nope, they were using simple letters or simple numbers. It created this sort of greatest hits list of awful passwords. You know the ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the word password, I love you, and those made up a huge chunk of all the data that was leaked.
Okay, so how does an attacker actually use our predictability against us? It's not always some super genius hacker in a dark room, breaking through firewalls. A lot of the time, it's just about using a really well-established playbook and a couple of key tools. On one side, you've got a brute force attack. Now, this is the slow way. It's like trying every single key on a giant keychain until one finally works. But the much, much smarter and faster method is a dictionary attack. This is like having a list of the most common, most likely keys. And where do they get the words for that dictionary? You guessed it, those 32 million passwords from RockYou and every other data breach since then. It's basically a pre-made list of all our bad habits.
Right about now, you're probably thinking, wait, but don't websites protect my password? And yeah, they do, or they're supposed to. They don't actually store your password. They store something called a hash. It's like a one-way cryptographic fingerprint. But here's the catch. If you and I both use the password123, we both generate the exact same hash. So when attackers steal a database full of these hashes, they can just use their list to instantly match the common hash back to the common password.
So, to solve this problem of identical hashes, security engineers got pretty clever. You can think of it like they came up with a secret recipe for your password, using a special security spice rack to make every single hash totally unique.
So here's how that recipe works. Before the system hashes your password, it adds a couple of special ingredients. First up, it adds salt, which is just a unique, random string of characters that's different for every single user. Then, it might add some pepper, which is a secret value that's the same for everybody on the site, but is kept totally separate from the database. And only then is the final secure hash created.
Now, each of these ingredients has a really specific job. Salt is the real hero that makes sure even if 1 million people use the password 123456, every single one of them gets a unique hash. This completely defeats those things called rainbow tables, which are just giant cheat sheets of pre-made hashes. And pepper? That adds another layer of protection. Since it's a secret that isn't stored with the passwords, an attacker who steals the entire database is still missing a key part of the recipe.
So that's how the systems behind the scenes are working to protect you. But what can you do to create a password that's actually hard to crack in the first place? Let's break down a solid strategy.
Okay, this is probably the most important part, so listen up. The crucial takeaway is this: length is way more important than complexity. A long passphrase, even 4 simple random words, is exponentially harder for a computer to guess than some short complex thing like password 1. Next, you've got to use a password manager. It solves the 2 biggest human problems: creating truly random passwords for every site and remembering them so you never have to reuse one. And finally, the single most important thing you can do, seriously, enable 2-factor authentication. Think of it as a deadbolt on your digital door. Even if a thief somehow gets your password, they still can't get in without your phone.
Now, all these strategies make our password stronger, for sure. But the ultimate solution might be to just get rid of them completely. And believe it or not, that future is a lot closer than you might think. And no, this isn't science fiction. The technology, it's based on a standard called WebAuthn, and it is already being rolled out by all the major tech companies. It's what powers something you are going to be seeing everywhere very soon: passkeys. The magic behind passkeys is something called public key cryptography. Now, it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty brilliant.
Instead of a password that both you and the server have to know, your device generates a pair of keys. A public key, which is kind of like an open padlock, gets sent to the server. But the private key, the only thing that can unlock that padlock, stays securely on your device. It never, ever leaves.
And this slide right here highlights the fundamental shift. A password is a secret you know, and you have to share it. A passkey is a secret you have. And since that secret, that private key, never leaves your phone or computer, it literally can't be stolen in a server data breach.
This changes the entire game. Passkeys are almost completely immune to phishing attacks because they're tied to the specific website they were made for. They totally solve the data breach problem we talked about. And honestly, from our perspective, they're just easier. You just use your fingerprint or your face, and that one simple action replaces both your password and your two-factor code. It's a win-win.
As this technology becomes the new normal, it's going to fundamentally change what it even means to have a digital identity. We're moving away from this whole era of remembering countless, frustrating secrets to a new one where we can simply and securely prove who we are with the devices we already carry around every day. It's not just a better password, it's a whole new way of thinking about security.